Then we have data verifications. Data verification is simply a way in which we put all the data in the, we put, periodically we add data to the full database that holds all the information. So when we do this, you will realize that someone can come with an additional program and add it to the database so that it can even copy the database and maybe mail it or something like that, or even cause service outages. So when this happens, you can be able to tell the size of the database that is in the database from what you put there originally by size. And then you can be able to verify that and correct the problem. Just in case you have a bigger database than you have, you can be able to delete it and reinstall the right one. You can also verify data by ensuring that what you put there really matches what you have. You can have other profiles being installed in your system without your knowledge. So you have to be verifying this data periodically. And then you have countering of denial of service attacks. We have some people who will try to be very smart. They send so many requests to the computer, and then the computer has to queue all these tasks, and then when your customer now wants to access something, he can't because your computer is busy. You'll just be getting messages like server busy or things like those. So we are able to see this list so that we can weed out the unnecessary connections or requests that have been made. And then we have also something called a buffer overflow. Buffer overflow is simply, there is usually a memory size that data can be held in a system when it's performing operations. When you give the computer, or rather the database, the database hardware that is, an operation that can't be held in the random access memory, you will realize that the computer will either hang or just fail to function normally. So we can be able to view these buffer overflows and correct them. And then another common attack is, or rather something that we monitor most, is SQL injections. You'll realize that when you have an online database, someone can come into there are some parts that you're supposed to fill. Usually it could be somewhere where you're supposed to fill your name. But instead of a person putting his name there, he puts in that window a malicious code. This code, when it gets into that small window where you're supposed to fill your name, it goes there and performs a logical operation. It could be copy the entire database. It could be delete the database. It is just programmed to behave in that manner. So when such kind of things, there are some measures that we use to ensure that no any other data is put there. There are some data validations that you put in your in that kind of window so that no other data can be put other than the one that you prescribe. And then we have machine learning. Machine learning, this name looks complicated, but it's something that we all use every day. I don't know whether we know that we use machine learning or not, but maybe at least this one we can be able to experiment. When you get hold of your phone and then you start typing your name, automatically the phone gives you another name. It is so used to you that it has learned the other name. So automatically the name is filled there. You can either choose it or you can ignore it. So that is one way through which machine learning is done. Machine learning has been embraced very much in our lifestyle. Sometimes you can get into your computer, you might have been used to logging in only in your computer. Tomorrow you go and log in into another computer. What happens? You receive a message from Google telling you, have you signed in from this computer? Or you have been using a have you used a Chrome-based browser? Maybe you used to Firefox or Edge or whichever other browser that you use. So it is through an embedding of security-based machine learning by Google that you are able to see this kind of automatic authentication. Even though what I can tell you for bioinformatics, as we embrace this machine learning process, if you are able to log in through another computer, I will not ask you, have you logged in from another machine? The best thing that we can do there is just to log you out until you confirm that you are the one, and then now we get you back online. So we have so many types of machine-based learning. We have supervised machine learning, unsupervised machine learning, and reinforced machine learning. Supervised machine learning, that is a type of, in data science we have this kind of statistical knowledge that we feed a system or a software so that it can be able to understand future databases or other future information that is keyed in. So it keeps learning by itself after your initial trainings. So when you use a supervised machine learning process in your computer or rather in your devices, you realize that the system will be remembering what you initially tried to teach it. And then we have the unsupervised one, we have the reinforced one. The reinforced one is just an example like the one I have given you for Bioinformatics Institute of Kenya. The reinforced one, the machine learns that you use this computer all the times. So when you use another computer, the system will detect that you changed and you started using a different type of computer. But you see, you can make it take an action. Immediately you change to another kind of computer, you'll be able to log in. But again, the database will automatically get you logged out because it does not recognize that new hardware, or it may not recognize the IP address, depending with how you have fed your computer, or rather your database with this security measure. It will be able to respond according to your instructions. Either you can set that if any other computer logs in here that is not the one that keeps logging in, you log it out automatically. That is reinforced machine learning, an automatic action. It does not seek feedback. I don't know, I think by now if an intruder is trying to come to a database, he's already logged out or something. And if he's not logged out, there are so many other methods that we use. We have blockchain technologies which we are developing. For the blockchain technologies, you know, this is a type of decentralized database where many people have to do an approval so that your transaction goes through. But you see, now we are not going to embed in, say, Bitcoin or Ethereum or all those other cryptocurrencies. What we are going to embark on here is how to use blockchains to be able to blockchain technology to be able to develop a pharmaceutical database where you don't have to be going to any other pharmacy and still have to be checked for common ailments that you always have before you are given a drug. Or if you are reacting to certain types of medical conditions, you don't have again to go and maybe the pharmaceutical, or rather the pharmacist makes a mistake of giving you a drug that you don't use, you get into problems and then it is solved. But you can embed this information in a predetermined blockchain database so that every time you go to a pharmacy that is registered with such kind of blockchain technology, it will automatically recognize you, what you react from, and recommend the drugs as you intend, or rather as fits your requirement. So with that, I guess I am through with my slide. You will have some time to ask questions. I think there is one thing that I didn't explain on.